Hello and welcome to the best book summary of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And this has to be one of my favorite, if not the favorite, self improvement and leadership book. That being said, if you are someone that would like to respond instead of reacting, be in control of your emotions, you want to be in control of your time, you want to understand what is your mission on this earth, or let's say you want to just be a better communicator, lead people better, think win win, or you just want to develop yourself holistically. If any of whatever I just said resonates with you, then this is absolutely for you. And if you don't already know me, my name is Mohit Jagwani. I'm an entrepreneur, life coach. I'm one of India's top speakers, and my goal with this channel is to help you build a better life. So, hello and welcome to the book summary of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Correct? And before I even jump into the habits, the first thing I'd like to share with you is inside out. Basically, before I even talk about external habits, I want to talk about the inside. So, what happens is that I'll narrate a story to you so that you can understand what I mean by inside. So, Kavi, who is basically the author, has a child, and that child was in a way struggling in a lot of areas of his life, and he was behind as compared to other people in a lot of areas of his life. And because of that, Kavi and Stephen, Mr. Kavi and his wife, they treated him in a way that was very coddling. They fought his battles for him. They coddled him. They used to affirm him that, oh, you're so good, you're this, you're that. But they still coddled him because they thought internally that he was weak, and they treated him that way. As a result, he became and acted weak. When they actually started acting in a way that they felt that, okay, you know what, we're wrong, he is strong, and they let him fight his battles for him instead of being over appreciative of whatever he did. They did the right amount of appreciation, the amount that was needed, not over, not under. And they talked to him in a way that they felt that, okay, you know what, he has got this. When they did that, they suddenly observed a change in him, and their child started acting better. He caught up, not just caught up, he overtook a lot of the people in certain areas that he was really good at. And many a times, what happens is that even we do the same with ourselves. Instead of us thinking that, okay, you know what, we got this, we are supposed to fight our own battles, what we do is that we let other people coddle us, and we act weak, we act victimized instead of holding ourselves accountable. Correct? So that's one thing. The second thing I like to talk about is personality and character ethics. So many a times what happens is that the world focuses on the personality, and someone's personality is basically how well they speak, how do they dress up, everything external, not nothing related to internal. So that is personality to a very good extent in the context of this book. But character is something that is embodied on the inside. So for example, someone can have a really good personality but a really bad character. For example, someone can be really charming, really a really good talker, a sweet talker, but he could have bad intentions and he could not be a good person, probably. That is a bad character. And when that happens, in the long run, bad is going to come to you. Correct? But on the other hand, if you are a person of good character, you are hardworking, you are strong, right? You are competent, you diligently work upon yourself, and you grow every single day, your personality is eventually going to shine through. It's going to reflect your character instead of it just being something that's very flashy, flamboyant, and something that's just superficially good looking. So that is personality ethics. And the third thing I like to talk about in Inside Out is the power of a paradigm. You could also look at that paradigm as the way you look at the world, or the way you have certain beliefs. Correct? So, for example, the way we look at the world is not the way the world is. The way we look at the world is through a lens, and that lens could have distortions, that lens could have mud on it, that lens could have tints on it. Because of that, we don't necessarily always look at it the way it is supposed to be looked at, the way it is. For example, now let me just show you something. For example, look at this picture. What do you see? A woman, right? And if you saw a woman, you're absolutely right. Now let me show you another picture. What do you see now? Still a woman, right? She's beautiful, correct? She has a feather on her head, she has beautiful hair, correct? Now, what if I said to you that she's not actually a woman that's young? She's actually a really old woman that has a really big nose, has wrinkles around her eyes, correct? Has a very long chin. Just take a look at it again, once again. Do you see the old woman? No? No problem. Let me reveal her to you. Correct? Now I think you see the woman. So now just look at her, and now I'll show you the picture once again. Now do you see? Right? Initially, this was not possible. Why? Because I primed your mind to look at this picture in a certain manner. And then after looking at the first picture, you assume that this is what it's going to be. But there are other ways to look at it as well. Similarly, when you think something is a certain way, for example, you might feel that a person is, let's say, you know, they might be defending themselves, and while defending themselves, they say something ill. Because of that, you think that they're a bad person. But that might not 100% be true. There might be other layers to this which you're completely missing out on. So what you need to understand is that the way you are looking at things, that's not necessarily the way things are. You need to be objective, and you need to be open about the way you approach things, and focus on the inside. Have a strong character. Be open about the way you look at things. Don't be too fixed, and don't be too aggressive in defending your own opinions. Sure, they might be right. I'm not saying they're wrong at all, but be open to listening. So that's the first thing, inside out. And the second thing that I like to talk about, right, which is basically the second habit, is be proactive. Now, what do I mean when I say proactive? So there are two types of people, reactive and proactive. Reactive people let the world decide how they are going to feel. For example, I went outside, it's raining, I hate rains, my mood is terrible. Correct? I'm driving the car, it's raining, and then suddenly something happens and I miss the signal. Right? I'm right in, the signal is going on, and right before I'm about to cross, the signal turns red. My entire mood is ruined. That, God, what is happening with me today? Now, in this scenario, I am not proactive. I am not letting myself decide how I'm going to feel. I'm letting the world decide how I'm going to feel. Proactive is me being absolutely proactive about the way I want to feel. For example, I decide at the beginning of the day, I want to feel happy, and I'm going to have a great freaking day. And no matter what happens, I have that day, right? I see rains, and even though I don't like rains, I find opportunities to make this work. For example, I go outside and get something to eat, or have Maggie while watching that rain, under that rain with my family, and I watch something. Correct? Now this is me making the best use of whatever is happening. Correct? Now let's say as the signal thing happens, and I'm like, okay, you know what, no matter, doesn't matter, that's fine, it's going to open anyways, let's just look around and see what's happening. Correct? That is the first principle, and it comes from Viktor Frankl. So what Frankl now Viktor Frankl, if you don't already know, he is the author of Man's Search for Meaning, and he was someone that was trapped in the Holocaust. He was a Jew, and Nazis trapped him, and miserable things were done to him, obviously. Okay, he had to sweep ashes of his fellow Jews, and he had been tortured. A lot of things happened to him, and he soon realized that many a times what happens is that we think that experience, whatever experience we are having, leads to an emotion, but that's not always true. Correct? You might think that, oh, someone just hits me and I feel bad. No, between experience and emotion lies meaning. What is the meaning behind whatever happened? Correct? If you decide that whatever you experience right now had a good meaning, the emotion you're going to feel is good. For example, let's say you went through a breakup. Correct? And if you put the meaning behind that breakup as something like, you know, she broke up with me because I'm not good enough. Guess what? Emotions is going to be negative. But if you look at it in a way that, okay, you know what, she broke up with me because someone or something better is lying ahead, in that scenario, guess what, you're gonna be not that sad. Sure, if you loved her or him, you are going to be sad. That is how it should be. Correct? If you're not sad, you did not love them. Right? But you're not going to be, you might be sad, but you won't be suffering as much. There might be pain, but not suffering, if you get what I'm trying to say. Correct? So that is what I mean when I say be proactive. You get to decide the meaning of whatever experience you are having. There are languages that reactive and proactive people use. For example, so this is reactive and proactive language. Reactive language is like, there's nothing I can do, that's just the way I am, he makes me so mad. Okay, that's reactive language. Proactive, it's, let's look at our alternatives. What do we have? I can choose a different approach, I can control my own feelings, I can create an effective presentation. Correct? So this is the difference between reactive and proactive language. Correct? So use proactive language as much as possible. Your words have a very deep impact on your beliefs and the way you think. So if you were to just switch your words as well, it's going to switch the way you look at things. So proactive language leads to proactive internal emotions, thoughts, and feelings. So the third thing is begin with the end in mind. Now, we're going to do an activity and I want you to isolate yourself. Sit upright, isolate yourself. If you're lying back or if you know you're just looking at, okay, sit upright. Genuinely, this is going to be life changing for you. And I'm going to switch on meditation music and just visualize and listen to everything that I say. And just perform this activity with me, and it's going to help you gain a lot of insights about what kind of person you want to be. Now, I want you to visualize yourself being at a funeral. This funeral is of a person that you are the closest to. You know them really well. And there are your and their friends in that funeral. Everyone that you know as a friend is at that funeral. And then there are your family members as well. Each and every one of your family members is at that funeral. People from your work, your colleagues are there at that funeral as well. And then people from your spiritual community are there as well. And as you move towards the body and you take a look at it, it is you. And it is your funeral. Everyone that is over here is here to share the mourning of your loss and the joy of having the opportunity to have gotten to know you. And out of these people, there are going to be 4 that are going to be speaking about you. 1 from your close family, talking about what kind of father, mother, brother, son, husband you were. The second is going to be from your work, talking about what kind of a colleague, what kind of a leader, what kind of a person were you at work, what kind of outcomes did you generate for people. The third is going to be from your spiritual community, what kind of person you were, how did you contribute to the spiritual community. And the fourth person is from your close friends, not from your family, but from your close friends. What kind of a friend were you? How did you treat the people around you as a friend? Now I want you to visualize what you would want each and every one of these people to say about you. What kind of person you were as a family man, what kind of a person you were as a friend, close friend, what kind of a person you were as a spiritual person, and what kind of a person you were at your work. Think about it deeply and pause this video and write everything down. Everything. everything that you feel like. And once you're done, just unpause this. I'm gonna give you just 3 seconds so that in this time you can just pause and unpause. Okay. Now, I hope this activity was fruitful for you and you gained some insights by doing this activity. And now, that being said, we'll be drafting your personal mission statement now. So I hope you understand what is it that you wanted to do, what kind of person you wanted to be when they were speaking about you. What did you want them to say about you? Correct? So now, when I talk about the personal mission statement, that mission statement is meant to help you understand what is your current purpose in life. If I were to talk about my personal mission statement, my personal mission statement in life is to be the strongest, healthiest, and the most competent version of myself while helping others accomplish the same. Correct? So that is the reason I work out on a regular basis. That is the reason I read so many books. That is the reason I create this video so that I can help you live a better life as well. So whatever I'm doing is completely aligned with what my purpose is. Similarly, you need to find out what is your personal mission statement. You don't need to find, you need to create it right now based on based on the activity that we just did. So just, if you haven't done it right now, just pause this video and write down a personal mission statement. And it doesn't have to be concrete, it can change over time as well. It just has to have some emotion behind it, and it should be something that you want to feel and do right now. That, okay, this is something that I want to do, this is my current personal mission statement. It could be something as small as you just getting an MBA. Don't get an MBA, to be honest, right, until and unless it's from an Ivy League school. If it is, then it's worth it, but otherwise don't. Just personal opinion, take it or leave it. Correct? But you get what I'm trying to say, right? What, it could be anything. Okay, so do that. That was begin with the end in mind. After that, I want you to identify the roles you have as a person, and we'll be using those roles and the things that you need to do in those roles in order to accomplish whatever is the mission that you set out for yourself. For example, let's say if I want to be the strongest, healthiest, and the most competent version of myself while helping others accomplish the same. Correct? What are the different roles that I need to carry out? I need to carry out the role of a son, right? What kind of a son I need to be in order to carry out this mission statement with my family? What kind of, let's say, brother do I want to be to my sister? What kind of coach? So if you don't already know me, I'm a life coach, as I've mentioned before. Correct? What kind of coach do I want to be in order to help people elevate themselves? What kind of speaker do I want to be in order to motivate people? Correct? How do I want to help them create an impact in their life, help them become a better, stronger, and more competent version of themselves? Right? So these are some of the roles that I possess. YouTuber, Instagram creator, correct? Son, daughter, not daughter, sorry, brother, right? And apart from that, I could also say entrepreneur. Correct? So these are some of the roles that I have, that I carry out in order to carry out my personal mission statement, and I have goals for all of these roles as well. Similarly, what are your roles and goals in all of these areas? Pause this video, write it down. I'll give you 3 seconds and then unpause and we'll continue. Okay? All right. Let's move forward. So now the next thing is putting first things first. Okay? What I mean by putting first things first is that you need to understand that where is it that you are spending your time? Your time is the most valuable asset that you possess. Let me ask you this. If I were to give you an option to get $1 billion, literally $1 billion, but you will not wake up to see the next morning, you'll die. You will not have time. Would you accept that? Would you want that offer? Absolutely not. What's the use of those $1 billion? Correct? That means your life is so much more, and your time is so much more valuable than anything. You get what I'm trying to say? Correct? So you need to optimize in the best way possible, and for that, we have the time management matrix. Correct? And according to the time management matrix, whatever you do falls into 4 quadrants. And these quadrants are segregate it based on whatever you are doing, whether it's important, not important, whether it's urgent or not urgent. So for example, if whatever thing you are doing, it's urgent and it's important, then it falls in the first quadrant. So activities like crisis, pressing problems, deadline driven projects, all of these come in the first quadrant. And activities that are not urgent but important come in the second quadrant. Correct? For example, presentation or relationship building, planning, recognizing new opportunities. All of these things come in the second quadrant. And things that are urgent but not important, these fall in the third quadrant. Correct? Activities like interruptions, calls, meetings, mails, these are all urgent but not necessarily important for your life. And the fourth quadrant is not important and not urgent. For example, trivial busy work, not urgent, not important. Watching TV shows, not urgent, not important. Pleasant act, unless and until you're a screenwriter or something like that and it's related to your work, right? Then obviously it is important, but otherwise it's not important. Correct? Pleasant activities. So you get the point, right? So these are the four quadrants, and in the first quadrant, important and urgent, these are tasks that you are supposed to do right away, obviously. Correct? And things that are not important but urgent, you are supposed to delegate them to someone else. Things that are not urgent and not important, delete them. Don't do anything with them, just forget about them. It's BS, not important, not urgent. And the second quadrant, that is the most important quadrant. Important but not urgent. This is the quadrant where most of the growth happens, and people that live in this quadrant, these are the people that are masters of their time. These are the people that control their destiny and control their fate. Activities like, as I've mentioned, prevention, relationship, all of that. And this is supposed to be scheduled. Everything that you do is supposed to be scheduled, and that is where this comes in. How are you supposed to schedule it? I'll be talking about that as well. Don't worry, I got you. Okay. And the results that you get, for example, if you focus on the first quadrant, that's important but not urgent, you'll always feel stressed out, you'll always feel burnt out, right? You'll always be putting out fires and you'll feel drained out in a way. And if you focus on things on, let's say, the third quadrant all the time, right, you'll have very short term focus, you'll be managing crisis, but you'll not feel in control ever. You'll not even feel fulfilled because it's not important whatever you're doing. And if you're in the fourth quadrant, not urgent and not important, man, that's just totally irresponsible. If you're constantly into this thing, you need to confront yourself because you're being really irresponsible. If you're constantly spending your time in this quadrant, you'll be dependent on others constantly because you're constantly doing things that are not urgent and not important, and you'll be fired from jobs. Okay, so don't live in the fourth quadrant if you want a good life that's filled with, let's say, things that you really like and enjoy for the most part. But if you focus on the second quadrant, you'll have a lot of balance, a lot of perspective, a lot of discipline, a lot of vision, and you're going to be the absolute master of your time and of your life. That being said, how do we actually utilize this second quadrant to the maximum capacity? Let's move forward. This is where the weekly schedule comes in. And the way you're supposed to perform and carry out this weekly schedule is, I'm sure you remember, we highlighted the roles. Correct? So, for example, if I were to just elucidate my roles that are aligned with my mission statement: son, digital creator, so that this involves Instagram and YouTube; brother, family man, speaker, entrepreneur, coach. Correct? So, personal development ke liye, I also have another role. These are some of my roles. Now, under these roles, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to write down different tasks for the week. Correct? So, for example, now as you can see, so there is the roles part, right? And there is the goals part. In the goals part, I have different roles, and under these roles, I've highlighted goals and responsibilities and the actions that I need to take. For example, in the son part, I've written mom driving license and dad and mom health checkup. So this is something that I'm going to schedule. Correct. In the brother part, I've mentioned that I'm going to plan a trip to USA to visit my sister, and I'm going to video call her once a week for sure. Correct. In the digital creator segment, I've mentioned things like I'm going to post stories on a regular basis. I'm going to create reels, 2 reels per day, right? Minimum, I'm going to script plus shoot plus content for YouTube, 3 videos per week. As I've mentioned before, if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe right now. I'm going to put videos on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. that is going to help you build a better life. Okay, I'm not kidding. It's really going to absolutely change your life. So subscribe if you haven't already. Okay. Now, These are some of the things that I have written down in terms of goals. And then you move on towards your calendar, your schedule, Monday to Sunday. You write this down, and then you write down when you are going to do what with the priorities of that day. For example, now this is the system that I have used, correct? So I wake up at 4 a.m. nowadays, and I'm sleeping. I know, don't make that face, okay? I wake up at 4 a.m. Okay, take it casually. And then I sleep by 9. Sometimes I sleep in the middle as well, so I get full 8 hours of sleep. Okay, and in this schedule I just write down whatever task I'm going to do when. Now I'm yet to kind of confirm things with, let's say, my clients, and this part that you see empty, it kind of depends on how they schedule as well. That's why I've kept it empty. Okay, so this is something that you can do as well. But apart from that, if you want to follow the way it is mentioned in this book, let me just show you that page. Okay, just give me one moment. So this is how it's done in the book actually. Okay, so the arrows represent the roles, and beside the arrows there are goals with tasks allocated to them. And instead of, so some of them are actually in the schedule, but some of them are just in the priority part. Okay, for example, if you observe, right, appointments, in the appointments or commitments section, he has mentioned like 8 to 8, 8 in the morning till 8 in the evening, or 9, correct? And then evening part, and then on top he's mentioned priorities of the day. So in that way, when you're looking at your schedule, you can still know that, okay, these are still your priorities, and you'll be able to figure out when is it that you need to do them, correct? So this is also something that you can do. You can follow whichever one you resonate to more. That was putting first things first, correct? Time management matrix and the weekly schedule. Moving on to the next segment, which is thinking win-win. Correct. So let's just talk about the win-win quadrant. And when it comes to thinking win-win, you need to have, so there are two axes in the win-lose, or this quadrant, is courage and consideration. For example, in an interaction, if you're very considerate but you are not courageous enough, right, then you're going to lose and the other person is going to win. For example, you want something but you are not courageous enough to speak up about it, and you're just considerate about the other person, then what you're going to do is that you're just going to lose. TK, you're going to let them win. And if you are very courageous but you are not considerate enough, then you are going to win and they are going to lose. You might think in the short term, well, that's fine, you want to win. Well, in the short term definitely it works, but in the long term you're going to lose, because people are going to know that you're not a considerate person. And when they get to know that you are not a considerate person, in the long run things are not going to pan out well for you, correct? But let's say you are neither considerate nor courageous, then you neither have the power or the opportunity or the patience to, let's say, listen to the other person, and neither do you have the courage to speak up. In that scenario, it's just lose lose. You're going to be like, chalo nahi karna hai, I don't want to do it, correct? But if you have both, you're courageous and you're considerate in every interaction that you take part in, then it's going to be win-win, because you're going to be courageous enough to speak up your mind, and you're going to be considerate enough to listen and understand what the other person has to say. Okay, so that was thinking win-win. And the sixth principle is seek to understand first, then to be understood. Right now there are 4 levels of listening, and many a times what happens is that we try and just make the other person understand first without actually even understanding where they are coming from. And when we do that, what happens is that the other person immediately feels attacked, and they become defensive, and they actually stop listening to you. And as a result, the conversation does not move forward, and you're stuck in a loop wherein you're attacking them, they feel defensive, you're trying to explain something to them, they feel defensive, and they are trying to explain something to you, but you feel defensive. Correct? Because both of you are just, you're not seeking to understand first. But let's say you understand them completely, wholly, empathetically first, and for that you need to understand the 4 levels of listening. So the first level of listening is ignoring. You just ignore them. Okay, so that's BS. Don't ignore people, be nice. The second level is pretending. You pretend to hear, right? You're not physically there. Sorry, you're just physically there, but mentally you're wandering somewhere else. That's pretending. Third is active listening. You can actually actively listen and recall to every word they say. If they ask you what they said, that you can repeat back. You can repeat it back to them. That's active listening. And if they make a mistake, you can point it out and tell them that you made a mistake. That's active listening. And the fourth level is empathic or empathetic listening. At this level, even if they are making a mistake, and in your current situation and scenario, it doesn't matter for you to rectify that mistake, and you understand and you got the message, you don't even try to rectify them. You just get the message and you listen empathetically. And you need to be at the fourth level, and the way to be at the fourth level is to have an open mind and just pause and listen as empathetically as possible. Don't just be at the surface level, and don't just hear what the other person is saying, and just don't just focus on the way they are saying it. For example, if I am angry and I'm kind of scolding you in some way or the other, instead of looking at it as, oh, they think I'm a bad person, correct, or I'm just useless, you go underneath and you try and figure out why is it that they are scolding you. Is it because they care for you and they want you to be better? Well, then that's a damn good reason for you to actually listen and be empathetic towards them and be understanding and wish well for them. But let's say if they're scolding you simply because you did something, you did a job, let's say not even poorly but in a different manner, and they're used to having it done on a separate, on a, let's say for example, in a different, in a separate way, then you know that okay, they just care about something, and they are very, in a way, very, you could say, controlling. Sure, they are passionate about whatever they are doing as well, but they are kind of controlling in that regard. Not always, but a lot of the times. Correct. So you need to understand and have that distinction when someone is speaking to you. Where are they coming from? That is listening at the fourth level. That is the sixth habit, seeking to understand first, then to be understood. And then the seventh habit is synergize. By synergy, I mean synchronized energy. All of us have energies. And when we utilize our strengths in a way that we build each other up, our energies are synchronized. But we do it in a complete opposite way, and we do it in a way that nullifies our strengths. We are moving in opposite directions instead of moving in the same direction. We have no synergy and we do not move forward at all. And it's very hard for us to move forward if we are not synergized. Correct? So that is why synergy is important. Now, the next thing is, after synergy, you need to understand how are you supposed to now grow and develop in holistically in all areas of your life. Because here's the thing, right? It's not like once you've done this and you've gone through this, you're just going to master everything. That is not the case. This is something that is supposed to be revisited again and again, talked about again and again. So if you're someone, right, that would like to revisit this again and again, share this, copy the link, share it with someone, or just, I'll probably be revisiting this every year or every quarter or every 6 to 8 months, because this is something that needs to be revisited as well. Correct? So just subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And now, speaking of the sixth sixth thing that I just talked about, seek to understand first, then to be understood. Now, that is a part of communication. And if you are someone that wants to become a better communicator, a better speaker, correct, in a way like me, if you don't already know, I'm one of India's top speakers. I've won various accolades and I coach people as well. And if you are someone that would like to be coached by me and become a better communicator, better speaker, you can check out the description below, and there are going to be details in which you can contact me, through which you can contact me. So yeah, moving on to the eighth habit, that is sharpen the saw. So you need to holistically work upon everything that I just said. And there are 4 domains of working upon yourself according to this book, which are physical, your body, mental, your mind, social or emotional, which is basically how you communicate with people, and spiritual, basically what connects you to the universe, to the god, whatever it is, whatever deity it is that you believe in. Correct? Whatever connects you to that. So these are the 4 aspects of sharpening the saw. Mentally sharpening yourself means upskilling yourself in terms of your career, managing your time better. Correct? That's mentally. Physically is working upon your body, right? Being healthy, eating the right food. Social or emotional means you communicating well, handling your emotions better, and conveying the message that you want to convey in a better manner. And spiritual means meditating, being staying true to your purpose, true to your character and intent. Correct? So that was the summary of the 7 habits of highly effective people. And if you enjoyed this and you'd like more of it, don't forget to subscribe. And I know this was long, but come on, It was worth it, bro. You enjoyed every bit of it and you gained a lot from this book. And if you really want to know more, just get this book. The description, in the description, I've mentioned a link. It's not an affiliate link, right? I'm not doing affiliates right now. Maybe in the future, I don't know. I don't care about it right now. Let's see. Correct? So just grab it and it's absolutely going to change your life. That's it from my end. I hope you enjoyed this video. Share it with someone who may need it. And I'll see you in the next one. Until then, keep building a better life. Bye bye.